What do a case of food poisoning, an exploding head, and etchings of Star Wars characters have in common? Well, they all contributed to making one of the greatest adventure film franchises.
Indiana Jones. About time you showed up.
Welcome to CineSqueeze, and today we're covering 10 thrilling facts about Indiana Jones. Number 10. A history behind a scar. In The Last Crusade, there's a scene where the young Indiana Jones cuts his chin while using the whip. This scar appears when Jones is older, but this is a real scar that Harrison Ford has had for years. When he was 20, Ford was in a car accident and received that chin scar. It's a clever way to weave the actor's physical traits into the character's history. Number 9. A lucky leg. During the filming of Raiders of the Lost Ark, an accident on set injured Harrison Ford's leg. An airplane stunt did not go according to plan. This led to the landing gear running over Ford's left knee. Thankfully, Ford's leg wasn't crushed entirely. The heat had softened the tire's rubber so the bone wouldn't be crushed. Ford suffered a torn ligament and decided not to seek a doctor. His knee was wrapped in ice and filming continued. Number 8. Previously a Playboy. Spielberg had almost made Indiana Jones a man who fancies women regularly. A cut scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark would have featured the reveal of Indy's home with the woman in his bedroom. It's a move that matches how the women of Indy's classes come on to him. Spielberg would cut the scene as he didn't feel like it fit Indy's character. It also might have been too obvious that Spielberg was pinning for a James Bond film with a scene like this. Number 7. The hat still fits. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was released 19 years after The Last Crusade. Despite such a long absence from the role, Harrison Ford seemed to jump right back into Jones' costume easily. The outfit still fit him, and we mean that literally. Ford had kept himself in such good shape over the years. His costume measurements hadn't changed that entire time, matching what he had on The Last Crusade. His excellent health also led to Ford performing most of his own stunts, thanks to advancements in stunt safety. So there were very few CGI replacements or costume changes required for Ford to step right back into one of his most iconic roles. No wonder he still wants to keep that hat at the movie's end. Number 6. Star Wars DNA. Even though George Lucas was busy on Star Wars, he still had time to throw some Star Wars into the Indiana Jones movies. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Well of Souls features a golden pillar with engravings. 2 of those engravings are the Star Wars droid duo of R2-D2 and C-3PO. The nightclub in Temple of Doom is Club Obi-Wan, an obvious reference to the Jedi character Obi-Wan Kenobi. Perhaps Indiana Jones and Star Wars exist in the same universe. Of course, that might be easy to accept if they're separated by faraway galaxies and taking place a long time apart. Number 5. Meeting in Hawaii. In the 1970s, George Lucas had been working on the concept for Raiders of the Lost Ark. He developed the idea with Philip Kaufman. They would have gone ahead with the project, but were busy with other movies. Kaufman was working on the outlaw Josie Wales, and Lucas was busy with a little film called Star Wars. When Star Wars was released in 1977, Lucas escaped the press by vacationing in Hawaii. For a company, Lucas invited Steven Spielberg and his wife for the trip. While Spielberg set his sights on directing a James Bond movie next, Lucas sold him on Indiana Jones, which was pitched as The Adventures of Indiana Smith at the time. With Kaufman unavailable, Lucas asked Spielberg to direct, and he accepted. Had it not been for one trip to Hawaii, we might have had a much different Indiana. Number 4. Authentic villain design. In The Last Crusade, the uniforms the Nazis wear look strikingly accurate. As it turns out, these were authentic Nazi uniforms. Costume designer Anthony Powell managed to find a collection of these old uniforms discovered in Germany. The clothes were obtained and used in the movie. Such a discovery was a relief for both the designer and director. Powell wouldn't have to design accurate replicas, and Spielberg wouldn't have to worry about making the Nazis look authentic. There's a lot of fantastic revisionism in Indiana Jones, but this element was nailed with a historical bullseye. Number 3. Avoiding the R rating. The most violent moment in Raiders of the Lost Ark occurs when the Ark of the Covenant is opened. This leads to a bunch of Nazis dying in the most horrific ways. It's so gruesome that you might ask why this film was given a PG rating instead of R. Well, the truth is that it almost was an R rating. When the film was first submitted to the MPAA, it came back with an R rating. And yes, it was for the scenes of heads melting and exploding. So how did the film get knocked down to PG? Well, the key ingredient was fire. Footage of flames was superimposed over the scenes of the heads being gruesomely destroyed. Apparently, that was all it took to avoid an R rating. That said, it's still one of the most brutal scenes for a PG-rated movie. The sequel, Temple of Doom, also had a PG rating and featured another brutal scene of hearts being pulled out of bodies. After outcry over the violence, Spielberg pulled some strings in the 1980s for the rating PG-13, existing between PG and R. It was the perfect rating for Indiana Jones, as the films have held this rating ever since its creation. Number 2. Indiana in China. When it came time to make a sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, many ideas were tossed around. One of the ideas Lucas pitched was taking Indiana Jones to China. He envisioned an opening scene where Jones would be riding a motorcycle across on the Great Wall of China. The plot would have involved Jones either solving the mystery of the mythic Monkey King or discovering a lost world of dinosaurs. The problem was that China was not on board for this type of movie. Chinese authorities were very strict about what films could be made in their country during the 1980s. So Lucas scrapped the idea and ultimately ended up with a religious cult tale in the Temple of Doom. It should be noted that Spielberg would film in China later with the 1987's Empire of the Sun. It was a historic moment in filming, as Spielberg was the first director to shoot an American film in Shanghai since the 1940s. So, while Indiana Jones wasn't suited for the country, Spielberg would still film there sans a motorcycle on the Wall of China. Number 1. Ford favors the gun. Indiana Jones would become known for his iconic whip, but one fight scene with Jones's weapon was removed from Raiders of the Lost Ark. The problem was less with the violence or framing, but more with health. During a scene in the market, Jones was supposed to use his whip on a swordsman. However, Ford had a bad case of food poisoning and couldn't pull off this stunt. After many failed tries, Ford told Spielberg that Jones should just be shooting the sucker. This led to one of the film's most hilariously anticlimactic fight scenes, where Jones ends the fight quickly with a gunshot. And it only happened because of some bad food. So, what do you think of our list? Did you learn anything new? Was there any trivia we missed? Should we've talked more about that scene with the snakes in Raiders? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe for more movie lists. Thanks for watching.